that Allah is looking to the mirror and saying, "You are of a magnificent character." When we understand the immensity of the reality of the servant Abd-Allah, when Allah granted the name, He said, "The greatest joy for me when Allah called me Abd-Allah." That has an immense reality towards the greatest name of Allah. When Allah allows something to be attached to His name, that's a state of that mir, Abd-Allah, that state of Abd that is attaching to the name of Allah for Allah to show its immensity, that Abd is created as a perfect mirror, as a perfectly cleansed reality, so perfectly clean that nothing comes close to its purity, and that's why it's a haqq. That aynah is hayyun qayyum. That aynah, in one other way of saying, is the soul, but it's so pure. It's from Allah's immense oceans of purity. As a result, Allah whenever He looks into that mirror, He's pleased with His own reflection, that reflecting back. And that's why then those ayatul kareem, when Allah khuluqul azim, you are of a magnificent azim, from azimat of your characters, immense is your character, means that this is Allah's praising upon Allah's reality, because the mirror is something non-existent, it's not as an identity. The abd is the servant of that reality, so then the mirror is merely just reflecting Allah back, so that in its purest state the mirror loses its identity. And that's why the turuqs are teaching us, lose your identity, because as long as you have an identity, so you stand in the presence of the shaykh, you're not reflecting the shaykh, you're reflecting yourself. And this path is about losing the identity, so that it's just a mirror in which is polished and polished and polished, and all that people can see is the reflection that coming through you, not you. That's the danger of dunya, is when the mirror is you look to a mirror and you don't see a mirror, but you see the identity of the person, and that's where it becomes something that is of a lesser degree and lesser understanding. So what's the threshold of what Sayyidina Muhammad has sent for us was the perfect servanthood, that the aynah, the heinous, the identity of Prophet's individuality is like a transparent invisible mirror, and all that we love about the reality of Prophet is the reflection of Allah. And that's why they describe His walking Qur'an. For us to understand the holy Sahabi were describing, what we know from Allah, we don't know anything from Allah, but what was reflected through the reality of Sayyidina Muhammad, we know Allah. Because when we looked at Prophet at that time in the middle of the desert, what was our understanding of rahmah and mercy? You know, the Bedouin desert is a very difficult life and very harsh characteristics. So the concept of rahmah and mercy and these names and attributes of Allah was not well known to the people. But they understood that when Prophet if we want to know rahmah, we looked at Prophet his character, how he judged people, how he brought decrees and the laws of Allah with such an immense love and passion and compassion. By knowing Prophet we understood and we knew Allah. If this is rahmah that we see through Prophet then we understood the rahmah of Allah, because that was the reality of the aynah. The purpose of the mirror was to reflect his Lord. So the Prophets were the mirrors of Allah until the perfected prophecy. That's why we described that the holy hadith is a description of the mirror, that when they did their fard and then they came towards their voluntary worshipness, I became the eyes in which they see and they're seeing, I became the hearing in which they hear, I became the breath in which they breathe. That's a description of the mirror. When Allah is giving a hadith al-Qudsi, is describing this mirror, they are so polished that they reflect my reality. When I look to them I reflect out. So when you come to the presence of the Prophets is as if you have been in the presence of Allah, and Prophet described to companions, if you've seen me you have seen Allah, because Allah is seeing through my eyes, is hearing through my ears, is speaking through my breath. That holy hadith is the description of the reality of the mirror and the understanding of the mirroring. So when we want to reach to Allah, that's the adab, is then face the mirror. That's the highest level of respect and understanding. For how can you find Allah? You're giving Allah a location, a place, a space. So the highest level of tawheed and understanding was that we are all searching for the reality of Allah, He inspires within our heart. Then look to my mirror, look to that one whom I created to be known, and through that perfect reflection all creation is reflecting out. We said the truth which is Hayyul Qayyum, it's ever living and it's self-sustained by Allah. So in Arabic when we say Haqq, it stands for Hayy, for the eternal oceans of reality, and Qayyum, that the truth is only sustained by the Divinely Presence, and there is no human, no jinn, no creation that can sustain and power the truth. The truth is something from the Divinely Presence. So that Haqq is then that mirror in which Allah reflects all of creation, is reflecting through that mirror of Sayyidina Muhammad. When we understand that reality and really contemplate about that reality, then we understand the depth of what Allah has given to us is a tariqah. So imagine the one who has no tariqah, no understanding, they face just an emptiness, and no matter what their practice, what they do, what they're trying to achieve, is nothing in comparison to the one whom their wujood is pointing towards the essence of Sayyidina Muhammad. It's something that can't be understood. So you imagine two people, one whom doesn't believe and understand and Allah didn't grant them this understanding. It's like they're facing just a closet with their practices, and with whatever benefit their practices have and whatever goodness they were able to achieve with their own hands and feet and ibadah, this is what they're blessed with. Versus the one whom Allah inspired on the path in which Allah wants to be known, and inspired you to come onto this path to get to know me. Then they teach you that your entire wujood, entire presence is always facing Sayyidina Muhammad. Make your zikr, make your salawats, perfect your character, take away all these badnesses, take away anger, take away all these things, and then scrub. And every time the scrubbing comes, this reflection of Prophet is dressing the soul. Imagine with what dresses it's dressing. And when Prophet is teaching you that, make one praising upon me, Allah will send my soul to make 10 praisings upon you. That mirror now is praising 10 times in its oceans of eternity, that there is no beginning and there is no end. What praisings, what lights, what blessings are dressing upon the soul. That's why all these naat, and especially the Urdu ones, they describe, I don't know how I achieved this. Outside people can see, because outside people come across me and they say, oh you have so much light, you have so many blessings, there's something about you we don't understand. But the servant themselves, they know they didn't do anything. What they did was to face that reality that the shaykhs taught them, they did the zikrs that the shaykhs taught them, and as a is told that sultan and that beatific light of Sayyidina Muhammad is reflecting upon their soul, and all of creation is mesmerized by the lights that are just reflecting upon your soul, that you become an ambassador of that light and that reality. So then imagine when awliya understood that, they rushed to purify themselves, to sanctify themselves, to busy themselves to get the attention of that mirror. Our life is for that mirror to gaze at us, and the only time that Prophet gazes at us is by good character, good deeds and good actions, and that's why they do what they do.